The mountain village of Drilleaf had always been a quiet, self-sufficient place. Nestled between thick forests and towering cliffs, it thrived off the land, with clear streams, lush crops, and a sense of harmony that the villagers took pride in. But all of that began to change when the rain stopped coming. Month after month passed under a sun that blazed relentlessly. The streams thinned, the crops wilted, and the animals either migrated or perished. The village's once clear water sources became little more than trickles. The drought was the worst in living memory. Among the drying springs and brooks was a small, forgotten puddle near the forest's edge. It had no official name, just a shallow dip in the land filled by runoff from the hills. Generations of children had played by it, tossing pebbles, making mud pies, or catching frogs. But with the drought, even this humble puddle began to vanish. By midsummer, it was nothing more than cracked, brittle earth under a shimmering haze of heat. One afternoon, a curious 12-year-old boy named Elric wandered out to the dry puddle, kicking at the dust with a stick. He wasn't looking for anything in particular, just something to distract from the growing silence that had overtaken the village. As he tapped around the dry basin, he spotted something glittering between the cracked earth. At first, he thought it was just a bit of glass. But when he knelt to inspect it, he uncovered what looked like a coin round, heavy, and covered in strange, unreadable runes. Elric called to his friends, who came running with excitement. They began digging with their hands, tossing aside clumps of dry dirt. What they found stunned them. Not just coins, but rings, jeweled trinkets, chunks of gold, and pieces of ornate metalwork. Some items shimmered with a brilliance that felt otherworldly. Among the discoveries, Elric found something peculiar, a smooth, curved scale the size of his hand. It glowed faintly, warm to the touch, and shone with a golden hue unlike anything he'd seen. Word spread quickly through the village. Within hours, adults came out with shovels and buckets. Even travelers passing through heard the rumors and joined in the frenzy. The dried-up puddle turned into a chaotic excavation site. People fought over items, dug without care, and loaded carts with anything that sparkled. That evening, as the sun dipped low, Elric took the golden scale to an old hermit who lived near the forest's edge. The man, named Bram, had long been considered eccentric, always muttering about ancient spirits and forgotten guardians. When he saw the scale, his eyes widened in horror. "Where did you get this?" he asked, trembling. Elric explained, and Bram stared toward the forest with grave silence. "Finally," he muttered, "they've dug too deep. That puddle wasn't just a puddle, it was a seal. A sacred resting place. You've awakened something that should have remained asleep." Elric's stomach dropped. The sparkle of treasure now felt like a warning, not a gift. But it was too late. The digging continued, and deep beneath the cracked soil, something enormous stirred, something ancient, golden, and not quite ready to forgive. That night, as the village celebrated their discovery with bonfires and excitement, Elric couldn't sleep. The hermit's words echoed in his mind, a seal, a sacred resting place. He couldn't forget the way Bram's hands had trembled when he saw the scale, or the growing tremor in the ground beneath the dried puddle. The more Elric thought about it, the more uneasy he felt. His curiosity had unearthed something that wasn't supposed to be found. Unable to rest, he snuck out of his house under the cover of darkness. Lantern in hand, he made his way back to the crater that was once a harmless puddle. The digging had left it wide and deep, its base shadowed by uneven mounds of unearthed soil and glittering scraps of treasure still glinting under the moonlight. But something was different. The air felt heavier. The earth beneath him vibrated softly, like a heartbeat pulsing from deep underground. Then it happened. The ground cracked open with a deafening snap. Elric fell back, watching in awe and terror as golden light spilled upward from beneath the earth. A massive object rose slowly from the depth, scaled, radiant, and impossibly large. It was a head, long and graceful, with horns that curled like branches of ancient trees. One enormous eye blinked open, glowing like molten metal. Elric couldn't move. He stared into the dragon's gaze, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. The dragon spoke not with words, but through thought. A calm but ancient voice echoed in Elric's mind. "You are not the one who broke the seal in greed, but you have stirred the bond." Elric instinctively reached into his bag and pulled out the scale he had found. He held it up. The dragon's gaze narrowed, then softened. The scale rose from Elric's hands, drifting gently through the air until it rejoined the beast's body, fitting seamlessly back into place. With that, the dragon rose from the crater, revealing its full form. Its wings unfurled like sunlit sails, casting golden reflections across the land. Its body shimmered with layers of light, gold, and stone, like a living statue made from treasure. The wind howled as it took its first breath in centuries. The noise awakened the village. People ran out of their homes, gasping in awe and fear as the enormous creature hovered above the fields. For a brief moment, all was still until someone screamed. A group of outsiders, fortune seekers who had been camping near the site, mistook the dragon as the ultimate treasure. Armed with blades and arrows, they attacked it, aiming for its eyes and wings. The dragon recoiled, letting out a cry that shook the heavens. It lashed out, not with fire, but with a wave of light that sent its attackers flying, disarmed, and unconscious. The villagers panicked, running for shelter. Elric screamed at them to stop, begging them to listen. But it was too late. Wounded and misunderstood, the golden dragon spread its wings and soared into the mountains, disappearing into the clouds. A silence fell over the village, once more heavy, ominous, and filled with regret. The guardian was gone, and the balance of the valley had just begun to unravel. In the days following the dragon's departure, Dryleaf was eerily quiet. The villagers, shaken by the golden beast's awakening and sudden escape, hoped that the worst had passed. But the silence was not peace, it was a warning. Nature, once gentle and nourishing, began to turn against them. It started with small signs. The well that had recently begun to refill mysteriously ran dry again overnight. Fruit spoiled on the trees and vegetables blackened before harvest. Animals disappeared without a trace. The sky grew hazy, the air thick with tension. Then came the tremors, gentle at first, then fierce enough to rattle rooftops and crack walls. Elric watched it all unfold with a sinking heart. The village had uncovered something powerful and sacred, only to chase it away in fear and greed. And now they were paying the price. Bram, the old hermit, emerged from his hut for the first time in weeks to speak before the townsfolk gathered in the square. His voice, though aged and weathered, rang with clarity. "You have broken the seal," he said. "The dragon you disturbed was no monster. It was the guardian of this land. Its breath gave life to our soil. Its presence bound the valley's harmony. And now that it has gone, everything is unraveling." The villagers murmured among themselves, struggling to believe. Some cursed the outsiders who had attacked the dragon. Others blamed the children who had first found the treasure. But Bram silenced them all with a single sentence. "Greed unburied the curse, and only humility can bury it again." Elric, consumed with guilt, stepped forward. He confessed to finding the first coin, the first scale. He explained what he had seen, how the dragon had spoken to him, how it had not attacked until it was provoked. He revealed that he had kept the scale safe until returning it, and how the dragon seemed to recognize his intentions. Inspired by Elric's honesty, a few others admitted to keeping treasure they had taken. Most of it had already begun to deteriorate, gold turning to dust, jewels cracking, trinkets burning cold to the touch. It was clear these were not ordinary riches. They were never meant to be owned. Elric proposed a daring idea: to gather whatever remained of the treasure and return it to the crater. Perhaps, he reasoned, if they gave back what they had stolen and showed they had learned their lesson, the dragon might return and the land might heal. With heavy hearts, the villagers agreed. Together, they scoured homes, sheds, carts, and travelers' packs. Bit by bit, the treasure was returned. Even the children helped, carrying back what they had secretly hidden. Elric stood at the edge of the crater, the dried puddle now a deep scar in the earth. The soil was cracked and black, but as they laid the treasure back in, the ground stopped shaking. For a brief moment, the wind stilled. It wasn't much, but it was something. Still, Elric knew that offering treasure wasn't enough. The dragon had been wounded not just by weapons, but by betrayal. If they truly wanted forgiveness, Elric would have to seek the dragon himself. And so, as the villagers continued restoring the sacred ground, Elric packed a small bag and turned toward the mountains, hoping it wasn't too late to restore the balance they had broken. Elric's journey into the mountains was quiet, solemn, and unlike any adventure he had ever imagined. He followed the faint trail of golden dust left in the dragon's wake, winding through steep cliffs and frozen peaks. Days passed. The air thinned, the nights grew colder, and still he climbed driven by guilt, hope, and a deep need to make things right. He finally reached an ancient hidden valley ringed with snow-covered stone and silence. There, nestled between towering cliffs and a frozen lake, was the golden dragon. Its body coiled around the shattered remains of a stone shrine. Wounds from arrows and blades still marked its scales, dulled by frost and sorrow. Its once radiant form was dim, as if its spirit had begun to fade. Elric stepped forward slowly, raising his hands to show he came unarmed. "I came to return what we broke," he said softly, voice shaking from the cold and fear. "We were wrong to dig, wrong to fight you. I didn't understand, but I do now." The dragon's massive eyes opened. It studied him for a long moment. Then its voice echoed again, not in the air, but in Elric's mind. "You carry no greed, only regret." Elric dropped to his knees and opened his bag. Inside were the last few trinkets he had found, dusty, broken, and forgotten. He placed them before the dragon, along with a single white flower he had picked from the edge of the crater, a symbol of what the valley had once been. "I don't ask for treasure," Elric said, "only for your forgiveness and your return." There was a long silence. Then the dragon slowly lifted its head and let out a low, resonant breath. Light poured from its chest, rippling through the valley like a sunrise. Snow melted. Grass pushed through the frost. The frozen lake began to glow. The dragon rose, still wounded, but no longer alone. It spread its great wings, circling once above the mountaintop before flying back toward Dryleaf with Elric on its back. The flight home was filled with golden light and wind that tasted of spring. As the dragon descended over the village, the people gathered in awe. No one ran. No one screamed. They dropped their tools and bowed their heads. The dragon hovered over the crater, now glowing again with soft, magical water. It breathed gently, and the land responded. The fields turned green, rivers gushed from the rocks, trees blossomed overnight. The curse was lifted, but the dragon did not stay. It curled once more into the lake bed and began to sink beneath the water, its glowing body becoming part of the puddle once more. A golden statue rose in its place, a silent guardian watching over the land. From that day forward, the villagers protected the puddle fiercely. No one dared to dig. They rebuilt their lives around gratitude, not greed. And every year they honored the dragon with flowers, music, and silence. As for Elric, he grew into a wise protector of the valley, forever remembered as the boy who awakened the dragon, faced the consequences, and helped write a new covenant between humankind and the sacred force beneath our feet.